The trash needs to be taken out. Sound familiar? Maybe you've heard it, or maybe you said it yourself, and then just watched, kind of confused as nothing happened, and you're left feeling, unheard, maybe a bit frustrated, thinking, I just told them what needed doing. On the other side, maybe there's just bewilderment. You just stated a fact. You didn't actually ask me to do anything. Today, we're diving deep into this fascinating and, often perplexing world of different communication styles, understanding how we talk and listen. Our mission, really, in this deep dive is to unpack the common patterns, the surprising nuances in how men and women often tend to communicate. We're going to pull in insights from psychology, sociology, and those really relatable real-world examples, all to help you navigate your conversations a bit more effectively and hopefully with a whole lot more understanding. Let's get into it. For what feels like forever, we've had this catchy phrase floating around. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. It paints this picture, right? Like two totally separate species, different languages, different customs. But is there really any literal truth to that? I mean, is it biological destiny written in our DNA? Or is something else going on?
That phrase, it really captures something people feel, doesn't it? It's a good starting point.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it's a lot more intricate than that. When you start peeling back the layers, linguists like Deborah Tannen, she's really key in what they call the difference model, offer a really compelling theory. She doesn't see male and female ways of talking as like one being better or worse. Instead, she calls them distinct genderlects, kind of like cultural dialects. And what's really insightful, I think, is Tannen's idea that talking between men and women often works like cross-cultural communication, just like you'd adjust, your expectations if you were talking to someone from another country. You might need to expect different rules, different norms when talking across genders. Her goal isn't about blaming anyone, not pointing fingers. It's more about explaining why these everyday arguments happen and ultimately, helping us understand each other better.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more then. If we're talking different dialects, different cultural ways of speaking, what are the core differences that Tannen and other researchers have actually identified? Where do these styles really split off in our daily lives?
Right. So at the heart of it, Tannen points to two main styles: rapport talk and report talk. Imagine women, generally speaking now, often lean towards rapport talk. This is all about building relationships, maintaining them, connection, empathy. It's kind of like weaving this rich, shared experience together. Men, on the other hand, often lean more into report talk. That's more focused on getting factual information across, solving problems, and sometimes, establishing status or, showing expertise. It's about efficiency, getting the facts out.
Okay, that immediately brings us right back to that trash example from the start. If a woman says the trash needs to be taken out, often it's meant as a clear but indirect request, a partnership thing. She's thinking, why else would I just say that? It's obvious.
Exactly. It's a request for action embedded in an observation.
But a man might genuinely hear it as just that, an observation.
Yeah.
A status update on the trash.
Okay, noted.
Right. Okay, noted. And then he moves on, totally missing the implied request.
Yeah.
And this simple mismatch, just from different default settings, leads to that classic frustration, on both sides.
Precisely. And this pattern, it stretches across a lot of other areas Tannen talks about. Take status versus support. Men often use conversation, maybe subtly, as a place to build or keep status, to be one up, show competence. Women, often seeing the world more like a network of connections, use language to seek and give support, to build solidarity. Tannen actually shares a personal story about this. When people commented on her and her husband having jobs in different cities, she heard it as sympathy, like, oh, that must be tough, a shared understanding.
Okay.
Her husband, though, he felt it as criticism, like they were trying to undermine his professional standing.
Wow, completely different interpretations.
Totally different. And this difference also helps explain why men might be more likely to interrupt. In their conversational world, interrupting can be a way to gain status, claim the floor, assert authority, whereas women tend to see it as just disruptive, disrespectful even.
And that links straight into the advice versus understanding thing, which I think, everyone's run into. It feels like women often want comfort, empathy, when they share a problem, while men often jump right to, okay, here's how you fix it.
Yes, the classic problem-solving mode.
Think about this. Jamie, a woman, is venting about her terrible boss to her friend Alex, also a woman. Alex is probably going to say, oh, that sounds awful. I'm so sorry. I totally get it. What a nightmare. Right? Validation first.
She lets Jamie vent, shows empathy. Solutions might come later, maybe. But if Jamie vents to a male Alex, He's likely jumping in with, okay, why don't you schedule a meeting? Or just tell him you can't work late.
Straight to the action plan.
Yeah. He's genuinely trying to help, trying to fix it. But Jamie just wanted to be heard, feel understood.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this really highlights another core difference: information versus feelings. For many men, conversation is often message-oriented. It's about the direct exchange of info, solving the problem at hand. For many women, it's much more about building the relationship, strengthening those social ties, sharing that emotional experience. This also pops up in how we give orders versus proposals. Men might tend towards direct imperatives. Close the door. Get me that report.
More direct, yeah.
Women often use these super polite forms. Let's close the door. Would you mind if we close the door?
Softening it.
Exactly, softening it,
Right.
Making it more collaborative. It often comes down to men focusing on efficiency and action, while women might prioritize keeping things harmonious, avoiding anything that feels like confrontation. So for you, the listener, understanding this means realizing a direct order isn't always meant to be rude, and a super polite request isn't necessarily weak or wishy-washy. They're just different cultural defaults for getting things done. Then there's storytelling. It's interesting. Men tend to tell more jokes, more heroic stories. Often it's about, elevating themselves a bit, commanding attention, showing competence.
Holding court, maybe?
Kind of, yeah. Whereas women often tell stories about other people or even self-deprecating stories about themselves. And the goal there is usually different. It's about strengthening connections, creating that shared feeling with listeners, building intimacy. And this leads us to listening. Oh boy, this is a big one for miscommunication. When women listen, they often use what linguists call cooperative overlap. That means interjecting with head nods or little sounds like, yes.
Active listening cues.
Exactly. It's not just proving you're listening, it's actively showing, I'm with you, I understand, keep going. It's like you're building the conversation together. It feels really validating.
Right.
Men, though, tend to listen more silently. And when they do interject, it might be more often to ask for clarification or sometimes, to make a power move. So this can lead to women thinking men aren't listening at all.
Because they're not getting those little cues back.
Right. And men might think women over-listen or interrupt too much with all the
Yeah.
You even see this difference in asking questions, like asking for directions. Men are often more reluctant. It can feel like admitting you don't know something, which might feel like it diminishes status or self-sufficiency.
Oh.
Women are often more comfortable asking. They see it as just getting information, maybe even a way to connect briefly with someone.
Wow, it's fascinating how deep these patterns run. It sounds like the words themselves are just approached differently. Different intentions leading to these, subtle but really powerful disconnects. But what about everything else? The stuff we communicate without words, the unspoken story.
Oh, the unspoken story nonverbal communication. It's absolutely huge. I mean, some research suggests up to 55% of our communication is nonverbal. That's everything, right? Facial expressions, gestures, how close we stand, our tone of voice. And here, women often show, a real skill in reading these nonverbal cues. Now, this isn't necessarily about being inherently better. It's likely more about learned skills, social conditioning.
Right.
Some theories suggest it's because women have historically been in sort of power down positions more often, needing to read the room, read the boss, adapt. Others linked it to being primary caregivers, needing to understand babies who can't talk. There are studies like Robert Rosenthal's PONS test. It looks at how well people decode nonverbal messages, and women consistently score higher on average. They're just more attuned to those subtle signals.
But that expressiveness, that nonverbal skill, can sometimes be a double-edged sword, can't it? I've heard that women's nonverbals, like maybe smiling even when they're angry or kind of physically shrinking when feeling threatened, can sometimes undermine their power or even play into stereotypes about being overly emotional. It creates confusing, mixed messages.
That's exactly right. A woman might try to soften a direct point with a smile, maybe use certain gestures, and it can unintentionally dilute how assertive she comes across, or it gets misread, like she's not serious. In contrast, men's nonverbal behavior often tends to be more reserved, more controlled. They often exert more deliberate control over their facial expressions, sometimes called masking. It's a way of not showing their internal state so readily.
The poker face.
Kind of, yeah. They often use a lower vocal pitch, physically take up more space, use broader, more expansive gestures, all things that tend to signal authority and power. Men tend to admire a sort of covert power and control, maybe don't feel the same social pressure or need to constantly lubricate relationships with those affirming nonverbals. It's often about communicating control, status, competence through body language.
Okay, so if we pull all this together, the words, the nonverbals, what does it all mean? Are these differences really hardwired? Is it biology? Or is it mostly stuff we learned growing up interacting with the world?
Well, big question. Nature versus nurture. And yeah, this is a really hotly debated topic. Lots of research here. Some research does point towards potential biological factors. You hear arguments about hormones, for instance, like maybe higher estrogen links to better language skills, testosterone to spatial abilities, so that's debated too. There's also talk about brain structure differences. Some researchers argue female brains might have more connections between the two hemispheres, maybe allowing for more simultaneous processing of, say, language and emotional cues, while male brains might have more connections within each hemisphere, possibly leading to more focused literal processing. Even brain imaging studies, fMRI scans and stuff, can show some differences in how male and female brains respond to emotional things.
Okay.
But what those differences mean for everyday communication is still really being figured out. It's complex. And yeah, you mentioned crying earlier. Women do tend to cry more often, longer. Some link that to hormones, but social norms about who's allowed to cry play a massive role too.
But there are really strong arguments, right, that social learning is the big driver here, that we learn these patterns.
Absolutely. The gender similarities hypothesis actually has a lot of support in the field. It suggests that while there are differences, they're mostly learned, not innate. Overlap is huge. And these differences, they pop up really early, sometimes as young as 4 or 6 years old, and they get reinforced constantly by social forces, cultural norms. Kids basically grow up in different speech communities.
Speech communities, like different conversational worlds.
Kind of. Think about parents. Studies show mothers often talk more overall to daughters, use more emotion words, more relationship-focused talk with sons, maybe more directives, more task-focused talk. And then peers reinforce this as kids get older. The wider social world matters too. Women often learn, for example, to be less assertive to avoid negative labels, like being called bossy or worse.
Double standard.
Exactly, because directness from women often gets a different reaction than directness from men. Interestingly, successful women often navigate this by using really high emotional intelligence. They achieve results without necessarily using blunt confrontation. Shows adaptability. And society has these display rules for emotion, right? Women might be expected to suppress anger but express sadness. Men might be discouraged from showing sadness, but anger is more acceptable.
So even how we show feelings is learned.
Totally. So going back to listening, yeah, brain scans might show different areas light up, but there's zero evidence one gender is biologically better at listening. It's more about different focus. Men often action-oriented, women may be more people-oriented in their listening style. And these are learned styles. It's crucial, though, while social learning is huge, to remember everyone's an individual. These are patterns, general tendencies, not strict rules for every single man or woman.
Okay, this brings up a really important question then. If it's largely learned, if these are patterns we pick up, what can we actually do about it? How can we, bridge these gaps, communicate better, maybe improve our mental and emotional well-being in our relationships by doing so?
Understanding these differences, or maybe better put, these learned patterns, that's honestly the first most critical step. Once you see the patterns, you can consciously adapt your own communication and also interpret others with a bit more insight. So, okay, practical stuff. For men communicating with women, really focus on listening actively. That means more than just not talking. It's paraphrasing what she said, asking questions to clarify, consciously trying to relate to the feelings behind the words.
Not just the facts.
Exactly. And unless she specifically asks for a solution, hold off on jumping into fix-it mode. Assume, first, that she wants to be heard, understood, validated, not necessarily fixed. Your quick solution, while probably meant well, might miss the mark if validation is what's needed first.
Just being present can be the help.
Right. Be patient, be involved. Women often provide more context, and if you seem tuned out, it can feel like you don't care. And this is important. Don't dismiss a topic just because it doesn't seem like a big deal to you. If she's talking about it, it matters to her. Take it seriously. Okay, now, for women communicating with men, try to consider his intention, his quick jump to a solution. It's very likely his attempt to help, his way of showing support. It's probably not meant to patronize or shut you down.
It's his learned way of help.
Probably, yeah. So clearly explain your needs. If you just need to vent, try saying something like, hey, I just need to vent for a few minutes. I'm not looking for solutions right now. That sets expectations clearly. Avoids misunderstanding.
Manage the expectations up front.
Exactly. Also, try to understand his boundaries. He might not need or want a super long, deep conversation about every single issue. Respect that maybe shorter, more focused chats work better for him sometimes. And finally, try to be direct. Men don't always pick up subtle hints, indirect cues, or, double meanings as readily. Just saying what you mean clearly and directly can prevent a lot of frustration on both sides.
Yeah, it really sounds like both people have a part to play. It's a partnership and understanding, isn't it?
Mm.
And it's interesting, too, how even simple physical things can help bridge that gap. I read somewhere that physical touch, like just holding hands before a tough conversation, can actually increase oxytocin, that bonding hormone. Makes you feel more connected, more empathetic.
That's right. Small things can make a difference.
And even unconsciously mimicking each other's behavior, a little posture, gestures can activate similar brain areas, build that connection without even realizing it.
Absolutely. And the ultimate goal here, it's not for men to act like women or women to act like men. That's not it at all. It's more about recognizing these patterns in ourselves and others and then creating this synergistic blend. It involves conscious self-monitoring, adapting our styles a bit, meeting the other person where they are, respecting the differences, and really focusing on building bridges in our conversations, not walls. It truly is a path towards, better mental and emotional health in all our interactions.
Okay, so let's quickly recap our deep dive today. We've looked at these fascinating patterns, right? Communication styles between men and women, especially this idea of rapport talk, building connection versus report talk, conveying info, status. We saw how this plays out verbally, like in giving advice versus seeking understanding, how stories are told, even how listening happens differently.
And non-verbally, too.
Right, and non-verbally reading cues, facial expressions, body language. And while biology might play some role, it seems the overwhelming evidence points to socialization, those speech communities we grow up in, as the main drivers.
Learned behaviors, mostly.
Learned behaviors. But crucially, we talked about practical, actionable strategies, things both men and women can do to bridge these gaps, to foster more understanding, better connection, and always remembering these are general patterns. Individuals vary hugely. No two people are exactly the same. So here's a thought to maybe take away with you. Deborah Tannen, the expert we mentioned, she suggests that a real sign you're gaining true cross-gender insight, that you're really starting to understand, is when you notice yourself saying that classic phrase, "you just don't understand," less often.
That's a great measure.
Yeah. So maybe this week, just observe your own conversations, partner, family, coworkers, whoever. When you feel that little bit of friction, that disconnect, try applying some of these ideas. See how many aha moments you have, just noticing the nuances of how we all talk and listen.
Because understanding these dynamics, it really isn't just about dodging arguments, is it? It's about making all your relationships personal, professional, richer, deeper empathy, genuine connection. It's really about fostering better mental and emotional well-being for everyone involved, just through clearer communication, in a world that frankly could use a lot more of it. So keep being curious about how we communicate. Watch how your world opens up.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into understanding communication styles. We look forward to exploring more fascinating topics with you next time on The Deep Dive.